Ji, so Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Arzish. I run Ijat Labs and Startup Grind and a bunch of other things, including Future Fest, which is happening next week. So hopefully see you in Islamabad. Today we have with us the amazing Junaid Iqbal, who's very well known as being the managing director of Kareem Pakistan, who led the Kareem Pakistan movement. Then moved to Dubai. He was leading Kareem Pay as well, and now he's an investor in multiple startups. He's also part of the Mentors Fund. He is also passionate about music, arts, and entertainment, and runs something called Salt Arts, which I keep seeing on your Facebook and stuff. So thank you so much, Junaid, for joining us.
Thank you, Arzish, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so today's discussion is around Pakistan's thriving tech ecosystem and remote world, right? So now I think post-COVID, all of us have realized that this hybrid living is definitely more efficient. A lot of meetings and discussions even you can do online. Maybe the next conferences that we do, a lot of content will be like pre-recorded, and the discussions and meetings and like one-on-one interaction can happen online. We're kind of exploring this concept as well. But this conversation, I'd love to start with your time at Kareem. So you led Kareem in Pakistan, then you were part of the team in Dubai, and now we see this effect, which I would call like the Kareem effect, where there are all these entrepreneurs that were part of the Kareem team, especially the early team, and now they're starting companies and raising millions and millions and millions of dollars, which is like really unique, right? A company that started like 18 months ago raising $30 million is even unique in Silicon Valley terms. So there's something surprising happening here. There's something crazy going on. Everyone is noticing Pakistan now, and Kareem, and especially I would say your work, because like especially all these Pakistan team, I even hear your praise from a lot of these people. That's where it started mostly. So maybe if you can share how your time at Kareem was like, especially at a time when maybe the ecosystem was not that developed, and how it led to now a lot of people coming up, starting their companies.
Thank you, Arzish. Kareem was an exceptional journey, right? And let me take you back to January 2015. This is not too long ago. January 2015 is the first time I was able to, while using 3G and while playing SoundCloud, I was able to stream music in my car in January 2015. This is not too long ago. In the summer of 2015, when I was introduced to Mudassir, and they reached out saying we want to launch Kareem in Pakistan. Not just me, but everyone I spoke to said that this cannot happen. People will not get into cars with strangers. People do not have enough mobile phones. People don't know how to use mobile phones. How will you solve for safety, security, and so on and so forth? So there were so many no's. And but what drove us at that time was that, what if we can overcome these challenges? What would happen? What would happen? And one thing that became very apparent very clearly is the job creation element, that if we can make Kareem work, we could create thousands and thousands of jobs. And in the early days, we used to say we're going to create 10,000 jobs. Then we upgraded that to 100,000 jobs. And then we said, okay, we're going to try to create 1 million jobs. That's sort of... Now, going back to the early days, we launched Kareem out of Lahore in a small office that we had borrowed from Venture Dive, which at that time was developing most of Kareem's tech stack. It was myself, our market launcher Fatma, and I think 3 very junior colleagues, 3 or 4 very, very junior colleagues, fresh out of college, trying to figure out how to launch this. We were giving away free rides for the first several months. Of course, nobody knew about the tech ecosystem at that time. Nobody was interested in joining a new tech company at that time. Nobody truly believed that if you're going to download an app and press a button, the car will actually show up. So even if the car used to take 20 minutes to show up, but the car would show up, people would say, oh, wow, this works. And so many of our bookings would turn into cancellations because people would say, oh, sorry, I was just checking if this works. I didn't intend to call for a ride right now. So from a time in 2015 where people, other than their exposure to Daraz, and I would say TCS, Yevo also existed at that time, from their exposure to basic e-commerce and your basic Dawn.com type first generation websites, people were not interacting with the economy in a technologically enabled manner. And so this was the first such step. And I remember, whether you're at a wedding or a conference or at someone's office, pulling out the phone and actually showing everyone how to do this, how to set your location. And now this is second nature. The other part that rings clearly in my head was talent. We were not able to attract good talent in the beginning, and we realized that the problems that we were solving were complex: supply problems, demand problems, marketplace problems. And so we very early started working on a talent outreach program. I would say in 2016, at least 30-40% of my day would be spent talking to talent, reaching out people who would know talent. We'd sit with people, let's say someone I know who's very smart. I'd say, listen, why don't we sit together for 30 minutes, run me through your entire LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And so let's say it says, Arjish, let's go through your LinkedIn. So Arjish who are the people who could work for Kareem or join Kareem? And so Arjish would say, this person is good, this person is good. I'd say, okay, please introduce me right now. So, and now what has changed is people now understand how to interact with the economy in a tech-enabled manner. There is now a breadth and depth of talent who not only wants to be in tech. Some of the best talent is coming and gravitating towards tech. But you have, I would say, at that time, if you could only find a pool of 20 people who could potentially have joined that organization in early days. Today, if someone is starting something new, there's probably a pool of 1,000 good people who could join you. And I think it's been exponential what has developed since.
It's amazing, but I think on one point I might disagree respectfully. Today there might be even lesser people because there's way more opportunities, right? So everyone is raising capital. Even if you look at remote base, right? They're trying to hire engineers. Everyone is trying to hire engineers, and I think like everyone is struggling. Every company that I talk to are having like a hard time, especially with tech talent, but also with like other people, right? Because you have this local economy of startups that have raised so much capital and really want to expand fast. And then you have this remote work culture, right? With big thanks to COVID, that you can just do a job online sitting at your home, probably get slightly better pay as well. And then you have this choice of, do you want to like work outside in Karachi in like so much heat and go to office every day, or you just like sit in your drawing room. And maybe that has forced a lot of companies locally to also enable people to work remotely and have like a better work culture. I feel like all these people who work in tech, especially like software engineers and all, we are part of a global economy, right? Whether you work for Kareem living in Lahore, or work for like a Silicon Valley startup living in whatever Faisalabad or something, you're not part of the Pakistani economy. And which is also like really nice. It brings in US dollars and stuff. But given your experience with building these teams at Kareem's, and now kind of seeing the whole ecosystem grow and seeing the whole journey for a lot of people, like which sectors do you think now are more like exciting for investors, for the entrepreneurs? Like what's the most happening space right now, or multiple spaces?
There are different ways to look at this. Some investors look at businesses which have fetched very strong valuations abroad. Okay. Right. So that is one lens of looking at it. The way I look at things is a little different, which are the biggest problems that we are facing today in our economy. Okay. So if you look at the investments that I'm making, they're primarily, a lot of them are in B2B sort of infrastructure space, really boring sort of companies when you look at it, but they're going and building the rails on top of which you could build more things. I mean, for example, using technology to solve for warehousing, for trucking, for B2B retail, for agricultural produce, its movement across the value chain, warehousing as a service, trucking as a service, so on and so forth. These are basic components. I still think if you look at Pakistan, or if you look at this region at large, education still continues to remain a large challenge. 23 million kids of Pakistan are outside of school. If we were to focus on Pakistan for a second, and we said, what will bring growth to Pakistan? We are one of the largest agriculture producers, but our yields are one of the lowest in the world. We have massive wastage. We have a price discovery issue. We have a storage issue. We have a quality grading issue, and we have an export issue, right? So unless you get into the weeds of it, you can't only build a tech platform. You have to get into the weeds of it, and whereby if you solve this, you're solving for the improvement about 30% of the economy. The next is of course your healthcare segment. I think no country in the world has ever prospered without really good healthcare, citizen care, and I think that is completely broken. Yes, there has been some room where people have built interfaces where you can do doctor booking or online ordering, and I think that's a great first step. But again, if you think of the fundamental patient experience or the fundamental doctor experience, it is still broken. You've got young doctors saying, protesting and Mall Road every couple of months, saying we don't have jobs or we're not paid enough. Globally, there's a shortage of technologically trained medical talent who can sit and work remotely. These things have to be paired up, and also the in-clinic experience, the in-hospital experience, that has to be elevated. So there are a lot of real problems. Tech talent. You mentioned that every startup is struggling to hire. This is a global problem, and it's going to become bigger. According to Ken Forey's report, by 2030, the world may be about 50 to 80 million tech resources short. And in tech resources, you also have sort of different types of tech resources. You've got your engineers who can write algorithms, who can build data structures, who will do problem solving. You've got coders who are familiar with one particular domain, who work with engineers and problem solvers, and who can write out solution sets for specific needs. And then you also have sort of technicians for your data security, for basic stuff like configuration, Salesforce work, Amazon work. And so the greatest opportunity for Pakistan is in grooming a wider tech talent base. So if you look at the total number of tech graduates, and different data sets will give you different numbers, it says anywhere from 30 to 60,000 people are graduating with some type of tech degrees. Yeah. This last year, just Infosys, Wipro, and I think TCS, they hired 200,000 fresh tech graduates. So firstly, we're not producing enough. Secondly, out of the ones that we are producing, if you speak to any tech, any software house or any startup, their acceptance rate is anywhere from 1% to 3%. So even if 30, 40,000 people are graduating, out of them, at least 50% are not employable. So if you ask me which is a great place to invest right now, it would be in building technology, our tech talent bench, both by numbers, yeah, and by quality. And on the face of it, these kind of businesses don't immediately drive crazy high valuations, because you have to build a B2C play, you'll have to build a B2B play, you'll have to, yeah, there is curriculums involved, there is governments involved, there's degrees involved. But I think if you ask me, where should money be going? Money should be going towards, for Pakistan especially, for in elevating the human resource. And that comes from basic education, tech education, healthcare.
It makes sense. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. I think on the talent issue, I've been kind of advocating a lot for the past 3 years or so. I talked to a bunch of companies, and I think even 3 4 years ago this was a problem. Right now it's a much bigger problem because there's a lot of funding and everyone needs to like immediately hire. Earlier it was just like software companies struggling to grow, right? And they were like, okay, we have 70 people, we will just slowly add people because there's not enough talent. Now if a company raises like $30 million, they have to hire no matter the price, right? So whether the solution is like hiring outside Pakistan or like finding like paying US salaries and stuff. But I think at the core, and this is all like my personal opinion, Pakistan has a clear education pipeline issue, right? So the universities that produce these engineers, they do not produce them to work in the industry. I think they just run a curriculum and they're like, okay, you have a degree, now go have fun. It does not make sense that you go to an institute for 4 years to learn practical education, and when you get out of there after 4 years, after paying a lot of money, you do not have enough skill set to get paid. You can literally do an
Yeah.
online boot camp for 6 months and have enough skills to get paid at least $500 a month, right? So like they like these education institutes, whichever they are and whatever this is wrong with the system, this is something clearly unfair, and I would say even fraudulent happening, right? If an institute is like, you are going there to learn something so that you can start your practical life and start earning, how can you get out of a university after 4 years and earn only 30,000 rupees? You've spent millions probably learning in those 4 years. There's a time cost. You've spent 4 years of your life. And I'm personally very much against universities. That way I did not go to a university myself as well. But even still, I think like the IIT model in India, that is an
Yeah.
example of an institution that has produced quality people in such high quality that they've not only excelled locally but actually excelled globally, right? And in Pakistan, unfortunately, we can't even pinpoint to like one institution that has been consistently producing this quality. Yes, NED produced a lot of good people back in the day that has gone to Silicon Valley, but where is NED now? Yes, GIK had a number of good batches, but can we say today that even fast produces 100% good people, 100% employable people, maybe 80% employable people? There's a big question mark, right? So I think and maybe it's too late to start a university now. There are faster solutions. You can run a boot camp for a year and train.
Universities could run smaller solutions,
Yeah,
right? And use their curriculum, because I think, as you rightly said, the greatest risk. So, of course, the market has changed, right? Money is starting to dry up, especially for later stages. Interest rates are going to go up. We're going to go into potentially a recessionary period. But this will fix over time, right? So, in the short run, you could say that one large risk to the growth of the tech ecosystem may be money drying up. But the real risk to the tech ecosystem today, in 1 year, in 3 years, and 5 years, is the lack of availability of tech talent. And as you said, that there are fewer people and companies raising money, so the fight for that tech talent is becoming steeper, and the pricing is moving up, even though total quantity and quality may not be
yeah,
growing, but the price has started to go up. This is a classic challenge. So let's say that out of the 170 universities, let's say for argument's sake that the top 10 who are producing tech talent are producing really high quality people, and all 100% are employable. Let's say for argument's sake, right, that you could say that NUST, FAST, GIK, LUMS, NED, and a few others. I don't want to leave any out. But let's say the top 10 are amazing.
yeah,
Well, we need these top 10 to grow the size of their programs. They
absolutely.
need to double their class intake. And yes, they could say, and if you speak to them, they would argue that we have to maintain a certain prestige. Uh, yes, sure. But the size of the problem is so big, and the size of opportunity for Pakistan is so big that
Yeah,
what you have to solve for instead is how can we double our class size and not lose value? Yes, sure. On the intake, if you're taking kids with 10 A's in O levels, you may go down to 8 A's. I mean, you know of kids with 8 or 9 A's who don't get into lumps, right? These are exceptional results. So if you're taking, the 99th percentile, if you bring that down to 96th as well, but the additional people that you're taking, you're putting them in the workspace. Instead of saying you want to maintain prestige, why don't you build the capacity of your organization to both intake and graduate higher quality students. So, and look, the government doesn't really play a real role in this, right? It's the few private sector colleges that are really good. So, and the government is almost devoid and unfamiliar and unaware. They're still stuck with wheat, rice, sugar subsidies and energy related circular debt.
Promote this thing. I even suggested to Kasim.
Idea of what to do, but they may not be very motivated to get going. And I think that's where we all need to, as an industry, come together and package this for people and say, go and do this course and this course and this course, do these 3 courses online, and then try to attempt taking this test. Let's say go take the remote-based problem solving test, and see if you can score more than X. And if you can't, go back and redo these courses and try again. But if you can score this much, at least we know that there is something we can find for you. Right. There is some job out there which needs your talent. And of course there will be different types of talent, but we need to make sure that, dude, the shortage is so big globally. Shortage is so big for all kinds of technology skills that varying skill levels, all of them can be employed very gainfully.
Absolutely. Nahi, amazing. And like we have this slogan, which is that future is now. And this one is very psychedelic, so you can't maybe read it. But I think when we talk about all this stuff, that, how is the future of this country going to look like? I think we are living in the future. We have everything that we need. We just need to come together and be a little bit more resourceful, right? And you're absolutely right. We need to promote this thing. I even suggested to Kasim that you should get a billboard on Alam. It doesn't cost a lot, and say that, become a software engineer, come work for remote base and all of that stuff, because we need to mainstream this stuff, right? Why is it still like Tapal and Lipton and all that stuff on billboards? Yes, there's Aidlist and other companies as well, but we need to promote this. We need to have software engineers and put their photos on billboards. Say this guy makes $100,000 a year. He lives in Lahore. He's just like you. You can be like him also.
No, I get very jealous when I'm watching IPL or during the last World Cup, because if you watch it on the satellite through any of the Indian channels, all the ads are of startups. Wow. In short tech, ed tech, like all ads are of startups, of their sort of e-commerce websites, in the Indian Robin Hoods and so on and so forth. So other the mainstream media like Byju's was one of the main sponsors for the World Cup. And I've always seen it very jealously. I'm like, when are our startups going to become so big that we start sponsoring, we become large main TV. You've started seeing a little bit, now on TV, you'd see a Kareem ad or a Bike ad or a Daraz ad or Airlift or Crave Mart. And you're starting to see more and more. You've gone ahead of the Sabun, toothpaste, chewing gum, chocolate to sort of tech companies becoming big enough. So I think it's, you're right, that needs to happen, but we need to celebrate. We need to start celebrating and talking more about our heroes who are building technology, sitting here for the world to function better.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to celebrate in Islamabad next weekend, right? So hopefully
this is your match.
We have 300 speakers. We have 4 conferences. We have the largest ever event done, right? And it's one of the largest events, I think, in the region also. 50,000 people. It's not every day you get.
I'm gonna try my best to be there. Let's talk offline about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. With this, I'd like to thank you for your time and the wonderful conversation. Hopefully, we'll do more of this now that the world is remote, and I think more content should be put out there for people to learn and especially learn from learner leaders like you. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Arzish. Really enjoyed talking to you, and all the best.
Thank you.
Goodbye.